Imagine a world of palaces perched on rocky hills, glittering with gold and ringing with the clatter of bronze weapons. Then, almost overnight, silence. What could erase the mighty Mycenaean civilization so completely? Let's sift the clues, test the theories, and see which one, or which combination, finally cracks the case of the late Bronze Age's greatest mystery. The Mycenaeans ruled the Aegean from roughly 1600 to 1100 BCE. They built citadels like Mycenae, Pylos, and Tiryns, traded as far as Egypt and Mesopotamia, and left us Linear B tablets, the earliest Greek writing. Yet by 1100 BCE, the palaces lay in ash, their workshops were abandoned, and Greece entered a dark age. No single inscription tells us why, so historians have spent decades piecing together fragments of evidence, often reaching very different conclusions. Before we tackle the collapse, we need to see how the system worked at its peak. Mycenaean palaces were command and control hubs. The first is economy. Linear B records show scribes tracking grain, oil, bronze, livestock, and even perfumed oil recipes. The second is military. Tablets from Pylos talk about rowers and watchers by the sea, hinting at coastal defenses. The final is trade. Tin from Cornwall and Afghanistan mixed with Cypriot copper to make the bronze that armed Mycenaean spearmen. Lose any link in that chain and everything wobbles. Step through the Lion Gate at dawn and the citadel of Pylos hums like a living machine. Bakers grind barley on stone querns while bronze smiths hammer spearheads that flash in the rising sun. In a shaded courtyard, perfumers stir olive oil with bundles of crushed iris root, creating scents fit for a king. None of this is freelance work. It's the palace redistribution system in action. Scribes crouch at low tables, pressing Linear B signs into wet clay. 60 measures of grain to the bakery, 8 ingots to the forge, 4 jars of fragrant oil to the shrine. In return, workers receive rations, bread, wine, maybe a strip of cured pork on festival days. Women drive much of the economy, weaving the fine textiles that Mycenaean elites trade abroad and carrying offerings to Potnia, the revered lady of the labyrinth. For a moment, the late Bronze Age feels orderly, prosperous, utterly indestructible. Unlike Egypt, the Mycenaeans didn't carve long royal histories in stone. Their clay tablets were temporary notes that survived only because palace fires baked them hard. What survives is tantalizing, lists of oxen, tripods, and perfumed oil. But it never says, on year X, we were invaded, or a plague struck. This silence forces researchers to lean on archaeology, paleoclimate data, and parallels from neighboring cultures, evidence that is rich but famously open to interpretation. Centuries after the palaces fell, travelers still gaped at their cyclopean walls and asked, who built these giants' lairs? Poets filled the silence with legend. Agamemnon, king of men; Helen, whose beauty launched 1,000 ships. When Homer recited the Iliad, audiences pictured those very ruins, their broken megarons glowing in the sunset. He even got details right: boar-tusk helmets, chariot skirmishes, bronze blades that bend in battle. By the 5th century BCE, the Lion Gate had become a tourist attraction. Guides pointed to the carved felines and whispered, "Here walked the sons of Atreus." The Mycenaeans were gone, but their brand remained, an early lesson in how storytelling can grant immortality long after stone and timber crumble. Invasion and migration, sea peoples. Egyptian reliefs at Medinet Habu depict coalition fleets around 1177 BCE. Many scholars argue these same raiders devastated coastal Greece. Burn layers at Pylos, Kydonia, and Miletus line up chronologically with Egyptian records. Dorian invasion. Later Greek legend blames newcomers called Dorians, citing a shift in pottery styles and dialects. While the archaeological trail is fuzzy, a population influx from the north could explain cultural breaks after 1100 BCE earthquake storms. Greece sits on several active faults. Collapsed cyclopean walls at Tiryns and Mycenae show shearing consistent with major quakes. Some geologists propose a decades-long earthquake storm between 1225 and 1175 BCE that repeatedly damaged palaces faster than they could be rebuilt. But critics note that many sites were reoccupied after each quake, so tremors alone can't be the full story. Climate change and drought, speleothems from Mavri Tripper Cave, and lakebed cores from the Peloponnese show a sharp drying trend after 1250 BCE, peaking around 1190 to 1130 BCE. Reduced rainfall would slash harvests just when populations were largest, lighting the fuse for famine and unrest. Linear B tablets already list emergency grain allotments. If the surplus vanished, the palace redistributive economy would choke. Systems collapse and the Bronze Crunch. Historian Eric Klein likens the Late Bronze Age to a globalized world, highly connected but therefore fragile. Interrupt tin or trade and elites can't pay armies, workers go hungry, loyalty evaporates, and cities unravel fast. Archaeological chemistry shows decreasing tin content in late Mycenaean bronzes, implying shortages. Meanwhile, iron starts to appear, but mastering iron technology took time. The transition may have left warriors poorly equipped, right when security was most needed. Internal strife and class revolt. Linear B lists reveal strict hierarchy: 1x, king, lauagators, war leader, daimo, farmers. If drought cut rations while palatial elites hoarded luxury goods, resentment could boil over. Post-collapse burials show simpler grave goods, suggesting egalitarian, or desperately poor, communities replacing palace elites. Epidemic disease. Ancient DNA studies have pushed the first confirmed Yersinia pestis outbreaks in the Mediterranean back to at least 1290 BCE. A 2024 analysis of an Egyptian mummy hints that plague circulated during the right time window, potentially hitchhiking along trade routes that linked Egypt to Mycenaean ports. No Mycenaean skeleton has yet yielded plague DNA, so for now, disease remains a maybe, but it could have amplified other stresses. Today, archaeology wields gadgets the 1x could never dream of. LiDAR drones skim over olive groves, stripping away foliage to reveal hidden terraces that once fed thousands. In the lab, a sliver of tooth enamel goes under a mass spectrometer. Strontium isotopes shout, "This woman was born in Crete, married off to the king of Mycenae." From a broken rib, geneticists tease out strands of ancient DNA, tracing family trees, even hunting pathogens. One swipe of a pipette recently pushed confirmed plague in the Mediterranean back to the late 13th century BCE, raising the stakes in our collapse mystery. Pottery residues surrender chemical fingerprints of imported wine. Slag heaps tell metallurgists exactly how much tin was running low. Every new data point is like restoring a deleted file on a Bronze Age hard drive, bringing the final years of the palaces into ever sharper focus. The evidence increasingly points not to one catastrophe, but to many. Drought squeezing harvests, quakes toppling citadels, migrants attacking weakened fortresses, trade routes failing, and palace bureaucracies unable to adapt quickly. Linear B's frantic last entries, mobilizing hundreds of rowers and watchers by the sea, sound like a state bracing for exactly such a storm. 10 minutes ago we had a single question: why did the Mycenaeans fall? Now we have a mosaic of answers: climate shifts, seismic chaos, foreign invasions, economic dominoes, social revolt, maybe even plague. Each piece alone feels incomplete. Woven together, they describe a civilization stretched past its breaking point. Which factor strikes you as the knockout punch, or do you think the palace system was doomed no matter what? Drop your theory in the comments. And if Bronze Age mysteries fascinate you, tap over to my deep dive on the Minoans, whose own rise and fall set the stage for the Mycenaeans. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a journey into the past rewoven.